Și bine v-am regăsit la Gândul Exclusiv. Astăzi Marga Nițu, excelenta noastră moderatoare și șefa emisiunii, nu se află în concediu. În studio, direct în emisiune, îl introduc pe Ambasadorul Statului Israel, Reuven Azar. Ziua bună, welcome back to our broadcaster.
Mulțumim pentru această invitație.
It is an honor to have you back. We're speaking before entering the studio, and I remember the first time you came here in my broadcast, and it was about we had that emotional fallout after the incredible terrorist attack of 7 October last year, and now we see each other again, and Ambassador, clearly Israel is in a new phase of its history. Now we have the war against Hamas. A couple of hours ago, something like that, but very recently, from Iran, we are receiving the information that the leader of Hamas was killed. I remind everybody that he was there to participate to the inauguration of the new president of Iran. The predecessor was killed in an airplane accident. We don't have any confirmation from Israel that it was an operation of Israel. Probably will never have it. But let me start with this in this moment. You are in full war against a terrorist organization. Now they are trying to expand, Iran is trying to expand through its proxies the war in Lebanon. Is Israel resisting, able to have 2-3 open fights?
It's actually 7 fronts.
Okay. I calculated only 3, but it's good.
It's the Gaza Strip.
Right.
It's Judea and Samaria, the West Bank.
Right.
It's Lebanon.
Right.
It's Syria. It's Iraq, the militias that have been firing
rockets,
multiple rockets. It's Iran itself that actually has attacked directly Israel, and the Yemen and the Houthis in Yemen. So we are having Yemen, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Gaza, West Bank.
So there are 7 fronts literally opened against Israel.
Yes. Well, they have a common denominator, and that's Iran.
It's Iran.
What Iran has been trying to do, especially in the last 30 years, but especially since the tumultuous period in the Arab world, the Arab Spring, was to use the vacuum with the collapse of many Arab regimes to create an attempt to choke Israel by supplying not only financial assistance, but also military assistance and the means to produce sophisticated weapons, precision-guided missiles, ballistic missiles, drones, etc. So, to the extent that it's actually a higher level than most conventional armies, including European armies, have. So you have terrorist organizations that have more sophisticated weapons.
Military technology.
Yes.
Than
conventional armies.
Yes.
And now they are using this capability they have built in order to try to choke Israel, but it's only part of their plan. The real plan is to have hegemony in the Middle East and be able...
The Iranian plan, you're saying.
Yes.
You're talking about
the Iranian plan, and be able to counter Western civilization. Okay?
Right.
Because for them, Israel is the small Satan, and America is the big Satan.
Yeah, and Israel, for that, it's the Western civilization. It's the main pylon of the Western civilization in their region.
So what Israel has been trying to do is, first of all, focus on the target, and that is Hamas. Because what Hamas has managed to do on the 7th of October is beyond remorse. It's something that has to be dealt with, and Israel has been resolute. When the government of Israel decided that it's going to eradicate the military capabilities of Hamas and bring back the hostages, which is actually sometimes contradicts itself because it's a very difficult dilemma, we used most of the resources we had in order to try to achieve the goal, and we have achieved to a certain extent, or to a large extent, most of the goals, but we have a way to go. We have eliminated most of the leaders of Hamas. We have in about 15,000 terrorists. We have eliminated hundreds of kilometers of tunnels that included strategic tunnels, Some of them were to hold the hostages, some of them were to hold the
transportation
leaders
of
of Hamas,
terrorists, yes.
factories of weapons, factories of missiles. The intelligence headquarters of Hamas that was embedded under UNRWA headquarters.
Yes.
We have taken the lifeline of Hamas of contraband through Sinai by sealing the border between Gaza, the Gaza Strip in Egypt. So this is creating a situation in which Hamas is running out of resources to continue fighting Israel.
But
we have
Iran
neutralized.
doesn't. But Iran does not.
But Iran does not. And
That
the
does
question
not,
is
so.
how we can create a situation in which we restore deterrence. And of course, we cannot do it alone. And as much as the international community doesn't cooperate with us in sending strong signals to Iran that they have to change their policies, we will face a situation in which we will have to do more and more ourselves to deal with our defense.
Mr. Ambassador, I do understand exactly where are you coming from, because it's you're living what happened to Romania in the 1930s when all the regional alliances collapsed, where two countries, the Nazi Germany and the communist Russia, took 40% of our territory. When we had the anti-Semitism and the racial laws and all that madness, 1936, 7, 8 until 1939, the collapse of Romanian statehood, and 1940, the entrance of Romania in the Second World War on the side of Nazi Germany. Anti-Semitism is the oldest hate. For centuries, your prime minister referred that in an interview, Bibi Netanyahu, but I wouldn't say only for centuries, for thousands of years. The massacre of Jews was always preceded by wild accusation. Today, in the region, you are accused of everything. I've seen in some very leftist publications articles written by Jews, by the way, by Israelis and Jews in the United States, in France, in Italy, everywhere. In the diaspora, that the Holocaust terrorist attack against Israel on 7th of October was in fact organized, or you let it happen, which is a monstrosity, as 9/11 was organized by Bush administration, something like that. It's anti-Semitism. Now they are trying to say that what's happening in Gaza, although I can say, because we have the numbers here, 4.8 million messages sent by the IDF, by the Israeli Defense Army forces, to the Gazians to leave the regions 24 hours before, in order to be sure that Israelis do not harm civilians. 4.8 million. 927,000. This is by the way, this is AT&T report. It's the House of the Five, as we call it, the organization that encompasses all the telecommunication companies, private or state-owned, in the world. The House of Five, as it's called. For God's sake, they're still accusing you of everything. The ICC, the International Court, wants to issue an arrest warrant against your prime minister. Turkey, the president of Turkey, by the way, a very good friend of Romania, menaced just days ago, right, in a meeting with his electorate. He was speaking to his people that it's time to invade Israel, that a Turkish army could have this option to invade Israel, giving the example of Libya and Nagorno-Karabakh. My point is, okay, are we seeing a new form of anti-Semitism, or in this moment Iran and its proxies decided to wipe out Israel as a nation, as a state, as a civilization?
Okay, so
what is your...
Yeah, so let me try to put some logic into this completely crazy
Wasn't I logic?
situation.
Wasn't I logic?
Well, you mentioned many things that
Yes.
are part of a phenomenon that
Yes.
is pretty well known. But when I'm talking about logic, is the logic of analyzing the situation. Okay,
Right.
so one part of it is how to deal with it, So the new thing in the modern world is that, unlike the situation that prevailed for hundreds of years, in which Jews were completely defenseless, now Jews are not defenseless anymore.
No.
And we are taking action in order to defend ourselves. So this is number one. Number two is how to analyze this. And there's the old classical anti-Semitism, the anti-Semitism that emerged from the fact that, for example, 2,000 years ago, the Roman Empire saw in Judaism a threat, because at that time, Judaism was the only monotheistic religion, and it was a threat on Roman civilization.
Multiple God religion.
So this actually even became more powerful when the Roman Empire adopted Christianity, because then they had to differentiate themselves from Judaism in order to be more efficient when it comes to keeping their identity. So that's why they persecuted. At the beginning, they persecuted both Christians and Jews. But then when they adopted Christianity, they started persecuting the Jews and creating all this prejudice that has to do both with religious ideology, but also with blood libels, etc., etc.
Exactly.
So this is the old anti-Semitism. Now, what happened in the Muslim world was that although Islam is tolerant to Judaism and Christianity, it never accepted a situation in which a Jewish nation, or a Christian nation for that matter, will take over part of what they consider as being their empire, in which they have to have supremacy. So the mere fact that Israel has restored its sovereignty in our ancestral homeland looks for many Muslims, especially extremist Muslims, as something that is completely in contradiction to their belief. And I think this is the main reason why you are seeing all these feelings against the Jews and the Jewish state. Now, then it brings us to the dynamic. The dynamic is that there is one and only Jewish state, and unlike a situation that you have in the region, which is a huge mass of land, in which you have many countries, and they have an advantage when it comes to international fora, and therefore it's pretty easy for them to create a situation that international institutions are being shifted for political reasons to adopt resolutions and to create a systematic bias against Israel. And you are seeing that many institutions that were built after World War II with the true intention of creating more promotion of international law, more norms, more progress in human development, they are being hijacked by this political agenda. And instead of dealing with the issues that they should deal with, they are concentrating on Israel in a completely disproportionate way.
I have so many questions that it's very important for the Romanian public to understand that, and it's very clear, we have to explain that. And I will be very blunt. Jesus was Jew. Virgin Mary was Jew. In fact, the first 600 years of the Christianity, their leadership were the blood of Joseph, the husband of Virgin Mary. All the 12 main people who surrounded Jesus were Jews. Just to be very clear. Second, 4,000 years the contract of that, how should I put it? Barren, desert, land. It's Israel was written. It's 4,000 years. Except China, and I don't know what country, Egypt, Syria, but Syria, it's the Babylon, which is totally different. Syria of today, I'm saying. I don't know any other country who signed a contract for their own land 4,000 years ago. We in Romania, we have 2,500 years. We have 2,500 years, and we are very proud But it wasn't Romania 2,500 years ago. They were not Romanians. But you were Jews 4,000 years ago. Let me be very clear. So, how did you find as an ambassador this message? How could you send it to the Romanians, who still are very friendly with the Arab world? We are very friendly, which is normal. There's nothing wrong. The Romanians who do not understand why brother fights against brother, why everybody went to Jerusalem, right? Romanians do dream to go to the Savior's church. And trust me, they don't understand. That street is Arab, that street is Jewish, and they cannot coexist. They do not understand that.
Well, I'll tell you what's the difference.
So how did you do it as an ambassador? How did you explain that to the Romanians?
So first of all, this is part of my explanation. There's something very, very important that happened in the Christian world following World War II. And this is manifested in the declaration of the Vatican, Nostra Aetate, in which actually they changed the narrative regarding the Jewish people and stopped regarding the Jewish people as a cursed people, that God has left them. Okay? But this was part of a normalization process of relations between Christians and Jews that actually, I think, happened here also in Romania. And we have very close contact with the Romanian Orthodox Church, which is a very important institution in this country. And we tend to believe, both us and many Romanians and many people in the West, that we are part of a Judeo-Christian civilization yes. That has the combination of Christianity, Judaism, and the principles of democracy that come from the Greek-Roman civilization. So this is something that we have in common, and therefore it is very natural that today we can communicate in an open way because we share values, we share expectations, we share norms, we share laws, we share the love of freedom. So for me, it's much more easy to communicate in a country like this than, for example, in countries that I've served before, like Egypt and Jordan. Okay?
Right.
Now, in contrast of this process that has happened, fortunately, in the last century, this is not what is happening in the Islamic world, especially not since the 70s of the last century in which the movement of radical Islam started to emerge. So we are in a situation that because of the collapse of the political system, of the national system in the region, extremist forces, extremist radical forces, especially the radical Shiite Muslims, not only them, also the Sunni radicals, the Salafists,
the different sects,
ISIS,
that
all of them have one thing in common. They want to create an Islamic empire. They want to restore an Islamic empire in which Islam will enjoy supremacy. Okay, and therefore, for them, it's completely they completely ignore the fact that all of the prophets, not only of the Bible, but also all the prophets of the Quran, except Muhammad, were Jewish.
Yes, they're Jewish. Yeah.
All of them were Israelite and Jewish.
Yes.
So actually, because I served in the Arab world and I have many Arab Muslim friends, I've noticed, for example, that there are several sects of Islam, probably most of the people didn't hear about them, mainly in the Sufi school of Islam.
In the Sufi school, yes.
With Qadiriyas that actually preach for a much more moderate version, and that actually
and they do recognize.
Yes. I was for example, I was in touch when I was in Washington with one of these Qadiriyas, the Kusenzani Qadiriya in Iraq, that actually recognized the right of the Jewish people on the land of Israel, and for them it's very natural because it's written in the Quran.
Yes.
So for political reasons that have to do with this extremist approach, they are actually using the Jewish card in order to mobilize people and create this supremacist movement that is threatening not only us, but is threatening
their own civilization.
So, and they are threatening first and foremost Muslims.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
Because the highest number of people that are being victims of these radical movements are Muslims themselves. So in this aspect, we haven't been able to reconcile. We haven't been able to have the masses in the Arab Muslim world to be open.
Is it a civilizational conflict, or is it also, because it's your destiny to be in that land. It's your not only biblical destiny, I am always saying that. As Romanians do have this destiny to be here in between the mountain and the Black Sea. As, I don't know, Frenchies are there, as Germans were there, okay? Americans have the destiny. Is it a civilizational conflict, or is it the fact that that Arab world inside the industrialization period of the Arab socialists they had 7, 8 immense and beautiful countries under that spell. Well, they discovered a common enemy?
Well, the Prime Minister of Israel has mentioned that in his speech to Congress. And he said that this is not a clash of civilization. This is a fight between barbarism and civilization. Because not all the Arab world is part of this barbaric movement.
Right.
You have countries in the Middle East that actually oppose the Muslim Brotherhood.
And I have his speech here in the Congress. So
yes. They oppose, and they actually are partnering with Israel to defend themselves from this threat. And therefore, I'm very optimistic that in the future, if we are resolute enough to defeat extremism, and we have to be resolute to defeat extremism, we cannot, for many years, people were cozying up to the Iranians, trying to have a dialogue with this regime to try and see if they can change, they will evolve. The only thing that we are seeing is them getting more and more extremist, oppressing their own people. So if we join hands together in confronting this extremism, there is actually a lot of hope that we'll be able to partner with those who want to create stability, that want to create prosperity. Countries like the UAE, like Morocco, like Saudi Arabia, that, like Egypt, like Jordan, that actually are interested in merging into the world economy, into the set of norms and rules that we...
With Jordan, you have the river where Jesus Christ was baptized. You have the greatest Jewish prophets of your country baptized in that water. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I never understood how in the world you cross that water and you find yourself into another world. You cross from Jerusalem, you cross it. And I never heard, but that's my personal feeling.
Well,
as a man who is trying to understand.
Yeah,
but Mr. Ambassador, let's go back about Romania and Israel, because you're the ambassador of Israel in Romania. I want to remind our listeners that the ambassador is leaving Romania. He's ending his tenure as an ambassador, and he's going to India, which is a great country and a very complex country. Congratulations. I would love to see, and I will read more about you as an ambassador of Israel to New Delhi. You're posted in New Delhi, right?
Right.
So now, let me say in this way, a small assessment regarding the Romanian-Israel relations. Romania is the only Eastern European country that has uninterrupted diplomatic relations with Israel since more than 70 years ago. We are 76 in June. We
76.
We had passed the mark of 76 years. Last year we had 75. Since 1948, June 11th, if I'm correct, the first legate, which wasn't an ambassador at that time, of Israel came to Bucharest. This relation had new ups and downs. Just to remind everyone, the first great wave of Jewish immigration from Romania to Israel, 1948, 1953, the first decade of the installation of the Soviet communism in Romania. After that, the show trials against the Zionist sentiments, against the elite of the Jewish community in Romania, that was just out of the Nazi period, the Second World War tension, the pro-Hitler regime of Ion Antonescu, and they got into prisons for their being accused for Zionist propaganda. We had after that, sure, the Ceausescu period, which was a very complex one with good and bad. But after 1989, at the event of democracy, we had the freedom to choose. And Romanians chose again and again Israel, and chose to rebuild that trust. How did you find it as an ambassador? Did you find the history and the modernity in the same time?
Well, this is the most amazing aspect of our relation, because this is a relation of people to people. The people, the Romanians and the Israelis from Romanian origin are actually fomenting this relation in every aspect of life that you can imagine. Jews here have lived for centuries. They have left their mark in Romanian civilization.
Sure, exactly.
In many ways, whether it be in literature, in politics, in economy, in
science,
whatever.
medical
in
science. One of the best hospitals in Bucharest has the name of Elias.
Right. And many Romanians actually started emigrating to the land of Israel very early, even before the period you mentioned. The first settlements in Israel, in Rosh Pina, Zichron Yaakov, Petach Tikva, they were built by Jews from Moldavia.
From Moldavia.
So this is a very special relationship, and I feel it every day, because there are a lot of initiatives that are coming from the people. Yesterday in my meeting with Minister Odobescu, we were talking about the richness of our cultural relations. It's really abundant. We are seeing Israeli bands and groups coming here to the International Theatre Festival in Sibiu. We are seeing them coming to the film festival in Cluj. We are seeing them cooperating with the Teatru Evreiesc de Stat, which, by the way, is a world phenomenon.
It is.
We are coming to the Georgianescu Festival. We are working with Art Safari. We are having jazz festivals here.
I didn't know you were working with Art Safari. I didn't know that.
Yes.
I didn't know.
We did 2 years before I came.
Yes,
we did the exhibition about Abraham Yanko. So it's really a very rich world. Some of these initiatives are ours. I invested in that as well, because it's an asset in the relationship. We brought last year a very, very interesting group from Israel. Actually, the beginning of this year, we brought a very interesting group of Israel called Nalagat, a theater that employs people with disabilities, blind people and deaf people that perform, and they have a dark restaurant. So we brought them here to Romania, and it's really a very rich. And this is only one aspect. Israelis are investing in Romania. Israelis are managing factories here. I identified several fields in which we can untap the additional potential that we have as a result of this.
What is the additional? Because my next question, Mr. Ambassador, was after you spoke about the strengths of this relation.
Yes.
Now let's go to the weakness. We have weaknesses.
Yeah.
What weaknesses did you notice and try to alleviate and try to resolve as an ambassador here?
Well, I noticed that the relations can go much deeper, much higher, and that there is a huge potential that we are not...
Is it faster? Can go as well faster?
Yeah, of course. And I'll give you examples. I did my research, and I interviewed a lot of people that have more experience than I had when I came here. And we devised a set of flag projects that I've been talking about in different interviews, and I've been working on very hard. The biggest potential that we have right now, because of the immense security threats that all the region is facing, not just the Middle East, but here also in Europe, is to rebuild the military industrial base of Romania. And this is required not only to fill the needs of the Romanian army, but also to untap the potential of the Romanian scientists and engineers that are great.
Right.
So Israel has already started with that many years ago, when Elbit Systems, that was, I don't know if you know, was established in Israel by Romanian Jews that emigrated to Israel, already have here several factories and are building drones for the Romanian army on Romanian soil. So we have, as a result of the Russian aggression on Ukraine, we had, European countries flocking to Israel to ask for anything they can put their hands on.
Okay.
Including countries that usually, that speak negatively of us, but they have defense needs. So
yeah, sure.
So we are supplying those. We have contracts for about 50 billion in the next 5 years, all the world. About a third of that is coming from Europe. So we know that after 5 years or 10 years, Europe will be able to build everything by itself, and it will require less imports from Israel. So we are getting prepared for that. We have an interest to build factories on European soil.
$275 billion PIB, Israel.
No. No. Almost 570.
No. Sorry. My
Romania.
My bad.
Yeah.
Romania.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but Romania is on the rise. Romania is on the rise.
You were on the 8th when you came as an ambassador, if I remember correctly. Please put me in my place if I'm wrong. As they say in the United States, Israel was on the 8th place for investments and economic relations. Today, I understand that you are aiming the 4th place, which is incredible. My question is, our teachers were your teachers. Our students were your students. So many doctors, so many engineers, so many in Israel. You cannot touch a stone without having this. Somebody coming from Baku, from Yash, from Cluj, from Bucharest, somebody in Israel telling me, oh, my grandparents were from there. Oh, my parents of my wife are from there, etc. But still, how do you as an ambassador saw the Romanian connections with your enemies? I've seen, and I will give you an example just to clarify my question. Foreign Minister Katz of Israel announced yesterday after the declaration of President Erdogan, day before, 2 days ago, that he's asking all his embassies and ambassadors to, in Europe especially, of Israel, to go to their respective governments and ask that Turkey be expelled from NATO. That was his Twitter. That would be a huge problem for Romania. How is Israel and you as an ambassador coping with the security necessity of Israel and the local politics of the governments you are sent to represent Israel to?
Well, first of all, it is very evident that any country that wants to be member of the civilized world has to stick to several principles. And unfortunately, what has been happening since Hamas initiated this brutal attack against Israel in a completely unprovoked way is that, unfortunately, the leader of Turkey has decided to harbor Hamas terrorists.
Sure.
So imagine that you have a situation in which a NATO member is harboring terrorists. This is completely unacceptable. So the question is, what is going to happen? Is this just a responsibility of Israel? Is it going to be?
Yeah. France of François Mitterrand was harboring terrorists from organization of Yasser Arafat.
Well,
Yasser Arafat was in the hospital when the scandal erupted, in a French hospital.
Yeah, but this only happened after Arafat
and France was a member of NATO.
Signed the Oslo Accords with Israel. This wasn't in the time that Arafat was considered enemy. To be by France a sworn enemy. And probably, many governments do wrong decisions. I'm not here to analyze each and every one of them.
Sure.
But I want to make the principal point. The principal point is that there are certain norms that we have to stick to them. Only last week, we uncovered a terrorist cell that was planning to abduct Israelis and hold them in Jericho. That was directly financed and guided by Hamas operatives in Turkey. So is it our responsibility only to call Turkey to stop behaving like that? Or is it the responsibility of the entire community, which Turkey is part of, to make them change that course? So we consider the Turkish people a very friendly people, and we have great relations with Turkey. Until the 7th of October, about 1.5 million Israelis were traveling to Turkey every year for tourism.
Mediterranean shores.
We were importing billions of dollars of merchandise. By the way, the Turkish business community is very upset from the decision of the Turkish president to curb the relations with Israel. So I think we have to go back to our senses and concentrate and unite behind principles and values that we share. And we have to condemn terrorism. This is a very, very essential part of not only what we believe in, but also part of our aim to create a world that is stable and that is prosperous.
Ambassador,
and by the way, I think
yes.
Romania could play a great role, because Romania has a very, very great perspective, historical perspective. You know, the Romanians and the Ottoman Empire go back for many centuries, and you also fought for your identity in this country, and you paid a very dear price to keep
yes.
your identity from attempts of empires to
Different
completely destroy
yes.
your civilization. So
yes.
in that way, we are pretty similar. Israel was not only conquered, their people were dispersed around the world. And we managed to keep our identity. So we know how to fight for our identity, and we know how to respect each other for that. And the fact that Romania has experience with Turkey maybe is something that we can benefit from.
Now, I was a young student at the university in Bucharest, and one of my teachers was also a man that I adored, Professor Reuven Azar. He was a very good friend of my family. So he knew me since I was a small boy. So I became his student, normally, with the passing of time. And I remember the shock I had when he came and explained us the timing of history. I was thinking myself, what is he talking about, timing of history? History is history. We now started then. We have. And he said, no. Imagine when, and he gave this example, and he was using this example all the time in front of his students. Imagine when Jews were expelled from Israel. They had antiquity history. We did not exist at that time. And Jews had antiquity. This way of seeing history gave me chill. And even today, I remember he passed away, and he was a dear and respected professor of mine until he died. I remember this. Israel, Jews were Israelis when no others were. So it's important to understand that, because I want to be very clear, and I want to move to the next part of our interview, because you are going to be ambassador in India. It's a very complex country, 72 official dialects and hundreds of sub-regional dialects, one of the best, one of the strongest economy, one of the most populous democracies, the most populous democracy in the world. So from a small Israel to a huge subcontinental country, it will be probably, I'm not saying a shock, but still the coverage of your diplomatic activity will be even harder. But I'm referring now to the students' protest and the so-called cultural elite protests around the world, and especially in the United States. The occupation of the American campuses by the pro-Palestinian radical leftist elements. Watching me and you and everybody, the full wave of hate and lies against the Jewish students in the campuses, they've been, the Jewish students being escorted by police, literally, for the sake of their lives, etc. They are chanting from the river to the sea all the time, this incredible chant. Many don't have a clue what this means, what river we're talking about and what sea they're talking about. Your Prime Minister, in his fourth speech at the Congress, just last week, he was in Washington, he said he said in this way, and I quote him, they not only get an F in geography, they get an F in history. And this is why I gave this example. I started this part of our interview with how historical perspective was told us by Professor Teodorescu. This is why I use this example. They call Israel a colonial state. Don't they know that the land of Israel is where Abraham, Isaac, Jacob prayed, where Isaiah and Jeremiah preached, where David and Solomon ruled? You were an antiquity state when you've been expelled. You're Israelis at that time. So my question is, how can we explain to the people that there is no from the river to the sea? There was once one of the greatest kingdoms of antiquity, the Jewish.
Yeah.
The Jared family was one of the greatest kings of Israel. The incredible architecture, if you go in the mountains, you'll see their cities, the old cities.
Yeah.
So
look, first of all, I can share with you my experience of living 7.5 years in the United States and serving in our embassy in Washington. And I can tell you that, first of all, you have to analyze what is the problem. Okay, I think we have two main challenges in campuses, in the United States and in campuses all over the world. One challenge is easy to explain. This is the challenge that is coming from Arab and Iranian money.
Right.
With people with extremist ideologies.
Right.
April Haynes, the head of DNI, said that actually Iran was directly financing some of these protests on European soil. Okay, you have Qatari money that, with the ideology of the Muslim Brotherhood, that actually is pouring hundreds of millions of dollars into universities in the West, and creating these activities that do not necessarily represent the majority of the students, but it's very noisy. The second challenge has to do with a term that I don't know if many people know, a term called intersectionality.
Yes.
The idea that minorities and groups that are underprivileged and are discriminated against must cooperate together in order to promote their goals. And sometimes people are so concentrated in that they forget that the Palestinians actually are not a discriminated minority because they were given many chances to create their own state and live in peace with Israel.
Your Prime Minister said, by the way, I will interrupt you,
Yes.
your Prime Minister said just last week that his administration sees a civilian government in Gaza after the war against Hamas is finishing. So there is no way Israel is going to occupy.
So you have a
territory.
phenomena
Yes.
that is actually quite ridiculous, and the Prime Minister spoke about it, in which minorities, like underprivileged groups, like LGBTQ, that are fighting for their rights, which in
this
Palestinian community,
exactly.
in Palestinian communities would be shot at and killed, and in Iran would be hanged.
Yes,
they
burned alive, literally burned alive.
They suddenly bring Hamas banners. The same people that would kill them.
Gay for Gaza, if you may remember.
They would kill them if they would lived in our region.
Yes.
So this is completely ridiculous. This irony shows you that sometimes people, by concentrating in their own intersectional interests, are actually committing huge errors of judgment when it comes to cooperating with these groups that actually
isn't this
are
based on profound anti-Semitic culture?
They are manipulating and taking them for a ride. Okay, so there's no doubt that these people that are trying to take advantage of them are completely anti-Semitic. Okay?
Sure.
And maybe some of the people that are cooperating with them are also anti-Semitic, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we have to tackle the two challenges that we have. And I'll share with you another challenge that we have is that we are a minority when it comes to resources invested in media, because we are attacked in many ways from many fronts, as we spoke before. We have to invest most of our money in actually physical defense.
Physical defense,
so when you have a channel like Al Jazeera, for example, which is a mammoth with a budget of more than $1 billion per year, that is...
And can buy everybody and everyone.
Permanently promoting blood libels against Israel all the time. Al Jazeera Arabic, okay? Yes. And there are many examples from the last conflict in Gaza in which they occult the fact that Hamas is hiding behind civilians, that actually is abusing every international norm that we have developed in the civilized world in order to create an advantage. They are using hospitals as military bases, schools. They are using ambulances as a means to transport terrorists. They are doing whatever they can in order to abuse our principles, in order to abuse freedom of speech, in order to send hatred. And we have here a duty to confront that together, because it's not going only to hurt Israel. At the end of the day, what is happening following the 7th of October. You see it very clearly in many Arab capitals, European capitals,
yes,
in which these mobs are going around vandalizing, in which people take the knives and kill children,
yes,
in the middle of European cities. So there are many things that we can do and are not being done. For example, Russian channels are blocked in Europe, right?
yes.
Why aren't channels that are promoting this terrible content of incitement and extremism are not being blocked in Europe? Why? You know, when I served in Jordan, I had satellite TV in my house. And I saw there are about 1,000 channels in Arabic. About half of them, 500 channels, are Islamic channels. Out of these 500 channels, there is maybe 1 or 2 or 3 that are moderate. All the rest are full of hatred towards the West.
And they're twisted. They're twisting
all
the
these channels,
truth. I know.
All these channels with these preachers preaching hatred, supremacy, you know, calling to fight the West, they are broadcasting, and they are being watched by millions of Muslims in Europe.
Right.
So when people are going to wake up to this threat?
Well, I'm going to be, because Hartmann is Hartmann, and I like always to get the best from my guest, and from you definitely I want to ask you. You see, somebody from CNN Romania wrote a tweet 2 days ago. He took a 30 seconds of speech of Donald Trump and said he's a Nazi. Vote Kamala Harris. He's a Romanian journalist in that TV set with letters and numbers. I'm not going to name them. That guy is a very influential, he calls himself NATO influencer. With that kind of influencers, we're losing the debate. Because you cannot call Donald Trump a Nazi. You can call him whatever you want, womanizer, whatever you want on this world. But Nazi, he's not. So with this kind of so-called democracy influencers, we're losing the debate. And we are letting those, exactly as you said, those hateful ideologies to come. Because when you call somebody Nazi, you go on a very dark side of the dialogue as an ambassador, and especially as an Israeli ambassador. Probably you've met so many people that accused each other of being Nazi, thinking that due to the sensitivity of the history, due to the Holocaust, incredible crime and absolutely despicable crimes, you will be sensitive. How did you deal with that?
Well, yeah,
with this dictionary, when everybody says, oh, don't talk to this, he's a Nazi, don't talk to this, he's a pro, I don't know what. Well, how do you deal with that?
First of all, you know, we have to...
And that's out of the chart question, by the way.
We have to realize that a lot of people are using these terms in order to gain some kind of advantage. And I think that there is not enough education regarding the uniqueness of the Nazi phenomenon.
Exactly,
because what was special about the Nazis was not only the very deep ideology of supremacy that they had, but also the systematic implementation of the plan to exterminate
a race and a Jewish race, not only
other people,
and not only the
and this is a unique,
Jewish,
you know, there used to be a belief before World War II that a modernized, scientific, and illuminated nation cannot commit such crimes. And the fact that this deep ideology and this systematic extermination happened to one of the most advanced economies in the world at that time tells you something, okay, about the danger of Nazism. Right. So we have to be very cautious when we use the term. Now, regarding the United States, look, what we...
No, but you as an ambassador, you surely had, either in Arab world, either in Europe, either in the United States, you surely had people using misleading in usage of this
we are seeing it now.
Dictionary of this language.
We are seeing it now, but this, for example, there is there is an envoy of the UN called Albanese, and she is working as a reporter for the Human Rights Council, and she is being using these terms against Israel, comparing, for example, our prime minister with Hitler. Okay, now these are the people that are writing the reports by which the International Court of Justice is writing
the condemnation of Israel.
So we have to understand how deep is this bias and this problem. When people are so biased against Israel, they are elected, for the specific reason that they are biased by countries that have an interest to isolate Israel.
Did you find in Romania this kind of phenomenon?
I'll just finish this.
Sorry.
There is the danger that all the institutions that we hold dear, that were created after the Second World War to advance our civilization, to bring us to a better place, all of them are being destroyed by this political agenda, because it's not only Israel that is going to suffer the consequences. The international community is going to suffer the consequences that it doesn't have the institutions it wanted to achieve. Imagine that Iran, for example, is appointed to be head of the Committee of Women Rights in the.
But we had we had a Libyan on the human rights sometime.
Right. So when you have this dictatorship, these genocidal regimes, for political reasons, given the right to
judge a democratic country,
to judge not only a democratic country, to actually chair a committee that is supposed to defend the rights of women, which they are oppressing in Iran. There is a gender apartheid in Iran.
There is, yes.
But instead of talking about the gender apartheid in Iran, they're trying to blame Israel for being an apartheid, which is completely ridiculous. We are a multi-ethnic, multiracial state, democratic state. So
to remind everybody that the same-sex marriages and relations are legal in Israel.
There is a responsibility. Yes. There is a responsibility of diplomats, of governments, of democratic governments, to defend these institutions from the attempts to make them biased, to destroy them. So there's a lot of things that we can do, both in the media field, as I said, but also in the diplomatic field, to defend what we believe in. And here, Israel and Romania are partners. Israel and Europe are partners, should be partners. But instead, what is happening is that sometimes, because of electoral reasons or populist reasons, some European governments are actually cooperating with these very difficult, problematic tendencies.
Mr. Ambassador, last 3 minutes. I'm told that we already have been over the allocated time of this broadcast. I had another 20 questions for you. It's wonderful to have you here, and it's mesmerizing to see. Absolutely, your speech is incredible, and we Romanians, we like to debate, not only official policies, but we like to debate. But the last question for the last 2 minutes: what should, in your vision, you are ending your tenure? I can tell you that by what I know, you are considered one of the best ambassadors Israel ever had. Your predecessor, all the girls loved him. I was jealous. All my girls in our newspaper, in our offices were, oh my God, when is your predecessor coming? Okay, so what should Romania, in your view, as Bucharest has this historic relations with Jerusalem, with Ankara, with Tehran, with whomever, and they're historic, already becoming historic. In your opinion, what should Romania do?
Look, I think there is a very natural process of Romania advancing to become a substantial power in Europe. The reforms that are happening here, the growth of the economy, is going to bring Romania to be much more significant when it comes to, putting its voice in the international arena. And as I said before, if we untap the potential of our relations, there's a lot of benefits that we can have both countries. And when countries have stakes with each other, they tend to influence each other more. So in that context, I think that Romania indeed can have a more significant role in the relations with us and maybe in its influence in the region.
Can Romania partner with you in different dialogues? I know Prime Minister Ciolacu has a wonderful relation with Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. I'm not going to say the little secret Monday evening, but I know I know a lot about this relation, which was built in time. Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu has a great sympathy for Romania, and he always had. Can we untap also the capacity of Romania to help Israel in this very tense and extremely troubling situation?
It's going to be up to Romania to decide its priorities. You know, usually countries that know very well how to define their own self-interest, and they don't need others and foreigners to tell them what is right for them.
Right.
And I think Romania, and I've been watching very carefully, what Romania is concentrating in. I think that it's doing all the right things in terms of trying to finalize their incorporation into the European Union, into Schengen, entering into the OECD. I think that all these trends are going to bring prosperity to the Romanian people, and they are going to, as I said, bring Romania to a much better position in the world stage. We have a lot of respect for that, and one of my roles here was to make Israelis aware of these trends, because many of them already know it because they invest in this country.
Exactly.
They've been investing a lot in new fields like solar energy and high tech, and they can benefit a lot from continuing doing that. Fortunately, we're going to have in the coming months big tour operators from Israel coming here to do contracts with Romanian companies, because we want to bring more Israelis here to have vacations. Romania, I think, knows very well what the threats are, not only in Europe, but also from the Middle East. It knows very well how to defend itself. It's very attentive to forces that want to disseminate extremism within the country, and we've been having very good cooperation with all parts of Romanian government in that regard, and also the fight against anti-Semitism. Here too, Romania has been a great partner. This year we saw the beginning of implementation of Holocaust Remember education in Romania.
Right.
Right. Hopefully we're going to see a Judaism and Holocaust Remembrance Museum being built in Bucharest. And it's very important to concentrate in the common heritage, to build partnerships.
Last
and then
50 seconds.
I'm sure there are going to be also maybe some Romanian influence also.
I'm cold because we have a live, but last 50 seconds. Who is the new ambassador?
Oh, so Leo is
Let's introduce him, because I'm sure that he will sit on your place when he will come.
So Lior Ben-Dor is a very good colleague. We entered the ministry actually together.
Okay.
He served with me in Cairo. He's a very, very eloquent speaker of Arabic. He's been
really?
He's been the spokesperson of the ministry to the Arab world. He served also in Latin America, in London, so he's very experienced, and he's also from Romanian origin. His grandparents are from the Baca area, and he went back to his Romanian roots and started to learn Romanian, and he's very talented with languages, so I'm sure he's very experienced, so I'm sure he's going to have a very successful tenure here.
Okay. Ambassador, thank you. Thank you very much for your service to Israel in Romania. We thank you for these relations you built and rebuilt. Vă mulțumim foarte mult. Acesta a fost ambasadorul Reuven Azar. Excelența sa este ambasadorul Israelului la București și în câteva săptămâni părăsește Bucureștiul pentru noul său post în India, la New Delhi. Vom avea un nou ambasador pe care o să-l invităm la Gândul Exclusiv pentru interviul care să definească noua ambasadă Israelului la București. H de Hartmann vă spune regăsire bună săptămânile viitoare. Intrăm în concedii. Toate cele bune. La revedere!